Stop before you spend that old Washington quarter. The coin in your hand could look completely ordinary, but one small detail can make collectors stop and take a much closer look. Today on Coin Seller Network, we are focusing on the 1979 Washington quarter, a coin that millions of people have probably handled without realizing there can be important differences between ordinary examples and truly unusual specimens. And if you have heard claims about a possible $605,000 value, stay with us, because we are going to explain what makes a coin like this interesting, what details you should inspect, and why authentication is absolutely critical before believing any huge valuation. 1979 Washington quarter. The first thing you need to understand about the 1979 Washington quarter is its identity. The coin carries the date 1979 on the obverse, beneath the portrait of George Washington. The small letter D indicates that it was produced at the Denver Mint. This mint mark is one of the first things a collector should check when examining a quarter from this year. At a quick glance, a 1979 quarter may look like nothing more than another piece of everyday pocket change. But coin collecting is all about details. Collectors don't simply look at the denomination and date. They examine the coin's condition, surfaces, strike, mint mark, possible varieties, and any unusual characteristics that could separate one example from another. So take your 1979 quarter and look closely. Start with Washington's portrait. Examine the hair, cheek, jawline, and neck. On a circulated coin, these areas can show noticeable wear because they are exposed to friction during everyday use. The more a coin circulates, the more its original detail can disappear. On the other hand, a coin that was protected shortly after leaving the mint may retain much sharper details. Now move your attention to the date. Look carefully at the numbers 1, 9, 7, and 9. Are the digits clear and normally shaped? Do you see anything that appears doubled, distorted, or unusually positioned? If something seems strange, don't immediately assume that you have discovered a valuable error. Coins can become damaged after leaving the mint, and post-mint damage is much more common than genuine mint errors. Next, check the Denver Mint mark. The D can be tiny, so good lighting is extremely helpful. A small magnifying glass can also make examination easier. Look for unusual shapes or characteristics, but remember that normal variations, wear, scratches, and damage can create misleading appearances. Now turn the coin over. The reverse of the 1979 Washington quarter features the familiar American eagle design. Examine the eagle, lettering, stars, and surrounding rim. Look for signs of unusual doubling, missing design elements, abnormal strikes, or other characteristics that don't match a normal quarter. This is where the hunt becomes exciting. A genuine mint error occurs during the manufacturing process, not because someone damaged the coin afterward. Errors can happen for different reasons, including problems involving planchets, dies, striking, or other stages of production. Some errors are dramatically more interesting to collectors than others, and their value depends heavily on rarity, authenticity, condition, and demand. That brings us to the eye-catching figure of $605,000. Could a 1979 Washington quarter actually be worth $605,000? You should be extremely cautious with claims like this. A normal 1979 Washington quarter is not automatically worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. A sensational six-figure valuation would require extraordinary circumstances and credible evidence. For example, a genuinely rare and authenticated mint error, an exceptional variety, an extraordinary condition rarity, or another documented numismatic circumstance could potentially create significant collector interest. The important word is authenticated. If you find something unusual, don't rely only on a social media post, an online video, or an unverified price guide. Professional numismatists and reputable grading services can examine a coin and determine whether an unusual feature is genuine. And never clean the coin. Instead, hold the coin carefully by its edges and inspect it under good lighting. You can also compare it with other 1979 Washington quarters. If you have several examples, place them side by side. Compare the date, mint mark, lettering, eagle, rim, and overall appearance. Differences become easier to recognize when you have multiple coins available for comparison. Condition is another major factor. A heavily circulated 1979 D quarter may have scratches, contact marks, dull surfaces, and significant wear. A high-grade example can look dramatically different. Its design details may remain sharp, and the surfaces may show fewer signs of circulation. But even a beautiful coin isn't automatically worth a fortune. The combination of rarity and demand is what matters. Imagine discovering a 1979 D quarter that has been sitting untouched in an old collection for decades. You inspect it and notice that the surfaces are unusually well preserved. Then you discover a characteristic that appears to match a recognized variety or error. At that point, the coin becomes much more interesting. That is when professional evaluation could be worthwhile. A professional grading service can authenticate and grade the coin. If the coin is determined to have a genuine, unusual characteristic, certification can provide stronger evidence of its identity and condition. But don't let an impressive price tag influence your judgment. A coin is not worth $605,000 simply because someone writes that number next to a picture online. Actual value depends on the specific coin, its authenticity, its grade, the exact variety or error, market demand, and comparable sales. This is especially important when you're searching through ordinary change. The exciting part of coin hunting is that you don't need an expensive collection to get started. You can begin with quarters from your own house. Check old jars, coin trays, drawers, family collections, and forgotten boxes. Look at dates and mint marks. Learn the difference between genuine mint errors and ordinary damage. The more you learn, the better your chances become of recognizing something unusual. And the 1979 D quarter is a perfect example of why knowledge matters. Millions of coins can look almost identical, yet collectors may pay close attention to specific characteristics that distinguish one piece from another. The challenge is finding the detail that matters. So if you have a 1979 D Washington quarter, don't throw it aside without looking. Check the date. Check the D. Inspect both sides. Study the rim. Look closely at the lettering. Examine the eagle. Search for genuine signs of an unusual strike or recognized variety. And most importantly, protect the coin from damage. If you believe your quarter has a significant minting error or unusual variety, seek an opinion from a qualified coin dealer or professional numismatist before making any decision about selling it. Could your 1979 D Washington quarter be connected to a headline-grabbing $605,000 valuation? For an ordinary circulated example, that would not be a realistic assumption. But the possibility of an unusual, authenticated specimen is exactly why careful examination and professional verification matter. Remember, the goal isn't to believe every viral coin story. The goal is to investigate. That is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. A coin that appears insignificant can open the door to questions about American history, minting technology, preservation, and the incredible variations that can occur during mass production. So the next time you see a 1979 D Washington quarter, pause before spending it. Turn it over. Look again. Use a magnifier. Compare it with reliable references. And if you discover something genuinely unusual, get it authenticated. You may not find a $605,000 treasure, and most people won't, but you might discover a fascinating coin that deserves a place in your collection. This is Coin Seller Network, and remember, the biggest discoveries don't always begin with a rare-looking coin. Sometimes they begin with an ordinary quarter that someone decided to inspect one more time. What if a quarter sitting in an old jar, coin collection, or even your everyday pocket change could be hiding a story worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? Before you spend another Washington quarter, take a closer look at the date, mint mark, condition, and smallest details. Today on Coin Seller Network, we are examining one specific coin that collectors may recognize instantly, the 1987 D Washington quarter. And in this video, we are going to explore the features that make this coin interesting, what you should look for, how condition and errors can dramatically change a coin's value, and why a sensational potential value of $605,000 is something you should treat as a rare possibility that requires expert authentication. not as the ordinary value of every 1987 D quarter. 1987 D Washington Quarter. The Washington Quarter has been one of the most familiar coins in American history. Millions of Americans have handled these coins without giving them a second thought. But coin collecting teaches us an important lesson. Ordinary-looking coins can sometimes become extraordinary when they possess an unusual combination of rarity, condition, minting characteristics, or documented errors. The 1987 D Washington Quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small letter D on the obverse side of the coin. The obverse features the familiar portrait of George Washington, while the reverse displays the traditional eagle design used on Washington quarters during this era. At first glance, the coin may look completely ordinary. That is exactly why examining it carefully matters. If you have a 1987 D quarter, the first thing you should do is locate the date. Look for the number 1987 beneath Washington's portrait. Then look for the D mint mark. These two details immediately identify the coin we are discussing. But identifying the coin is only the beginning. The real excitement begins when you examine its condition. Coin collectors use grading systems to describe how well a coin has survived since the day it was struck. A circulated quarter may show scratches, dull surfaces, flattened details, and signs of wear from years of use. A high-grade, uncirculated example, however, can look dramatically different. Its original surfaces may remain sharp and attractive, with strong details and relatively few marks. This difference can have a major impact on collector interest. Imagine finding a 1987 D quarter that has spent decades protected inside a collection rather than being carried from store to store. The coin might have bright, original surfaces and crisp details. Under proper lighting, you could potentially see tiny marks that are invisible to the naked eye. Those details are important because professional grading considers the overall preservation of the coin. However, condition is not the only factor. You also want to inspect the coin for unusual minting characteristics. Modern United States coins were produced using highly sophisticated machinery, but the minting process is incredibly complex. Occasionally, coins can exhibit striking errors or unusual varieties. Depending on the type, authenticity, rarity, and collector demand, a genuine error can make an otherwise common coin much more interesting. Look closely at the lettering. Examine Washington's portrait. Check the rim. Inspect the date and mint mark. Then turn the coin over and examine the reverse design. You are looking for anything that appears genuinely different from a normal example. But there is an important warning here. Not every strange-looking coin is a valuable error. Damage can happen after a coin leaves the mint. Coins can be scratched, bent, scraped, chemically altered, exposed to heat, or damaged by machinery. A damaged coin may look unusual, but unusual does not automatically mean valuable. That is why serious collectors compare a suspected error with authenticated examples and, when necessary, consult professional experts. Now let's talk about the number that gets attention: $605,000. A $605,000 valuation attached to a 1987 D Washington quarter should never be interpreted as the normal market value of an ordinary 1987 D quarter. A common example is generally worth far less. A figure like $605,000 would require extraordinary circumstances, such as an exceptionally rare and authenticated error, an extremely unusual minting characteristic, exceptional condition, or another circumstance supported by credible numismatic evidence and a legitimate transaction. This distinction is extremely important for anyone watching coin videos online. A headline can make a coin sound like an instant fortune, but professional coin collecting is based on evidence. Auction records, certification, population reports, grading, provenance, and market demand all matter. So if someone tells you that every 1987 D quarter is worth $605,000, do not believe it. Instead, become the detective. Take your quarter out and place it on a clean surface. Avoid rubbing or polishing it. Cleaning a collectible coin can permanently damage its original surfaces and potentially reduce its collector appeal. Hold the coin by its edges whenever possible, and use good lighting to examine both sides. Start with the obverse. Look carefully around the date. Check Washington's hair, cheek, neck, and other high points for signs of wear. Examine the lettering and rim for unusual doubling or distortion. If something looks strange, compare it against reliable references rather than immediately assuming it is a rare error. Then inspect the reverse. Look at the eagle, lettering, stars, and rim. Search for unusual doubling, missing details, abnormal shapes, or evidence that the coin was struck incorrectly. Again, the key is authenticity. One of the biggest mistakes new collectors make is focusing entirely on the price. Instead, focus first on identification. What is the date? What is the mint mark? What condition is the coin in? Does it show genuine mint damage or post-mint damage? Is the feature actually recognized by specialists? Has the coin been professionally authenticated? Those questions are much more important than simply asking, how much is this quarter worth? And there is another fascinating possibility. The coin may have survived in an unusually high grade. Most coins are exposed to friction and contact with other coins. Even a coin that was never heavily circulated can pick up small marks from storage and handling. A truly exceptional example may therefore attract attention from collectors competing for high-grade pieces. This is where professional grading can become important. A reputable third-party grading service can examine the coin, authenticate it, assign a grade, and encapsulate it in a protective holder. For a potentially valuable coin, professional certification can provide much stronger evidence than an internet post or an unverified appraisal. So if you discover a 1987 D quarter that appears exceptionally unusual, resist the temptation to clean it, polish it, scratch it, or alter it in any way. Preserve the coin exactly as you found it. And remember, the most exciting part of coin hunting isn't always finding a fortune. Sometimes it is discovering history in your own hands. The 1987 D Washington quarter represents an era when these familiar coins were produced for everyday commerce. Millions may have entered circulation, passed through cash registers, traveled in pockets, and eventually disappeared into drawers and collections. Yet every individual coin has its own journey. Some were heavily used. Some were saved immediately. Some developed damage. Some survived in remarkable condition. And a tiny number may have characteristics that make them worthy of serious investigation. That is why you should never judge a coin entirely by its face value. If you find a 1987 D Washington quarter, check it carefully. Look at the date. Confirm the Denver mint mark. Study the surfaces. Inspect the design. Compare suspicious features with trustworthy references. And if you believe you have discovered something genuinely extraordinary, consider having the coin examined by a qualified numismatist or professional grading service. Could your 1987 D quarter really be connected to a spectacular $605,000 valuation? For an ordinary example, almost certainly not. But if a coin possesses a truly rare, authenticated characteristic and meets the right combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand, extraordinary valuations can become a subject worth investigating. That is the real lesson. The next time someone hands you a quarter, don't automatically toss it into your spending money. Take a second look. A tiny letter, an unusual detail, or an exceptional state of preservation can completely change the story. This is Coin Seller Network, where we turn ordinary pocket change into fascinating coin hunting adventures. So check your 1987 D Washington quarters, protect the interesting ones, and keep learning, because you never know what history might be hiding in your collection.